He was humiliated and turned away from an exclusive building because of his red Maga hat, without anyone realizing he was the new owner. Calmly, he walked away, saying only, "This is just the beginning." What happened next shocked everyone. The screech of tires from a black SUV broke the early morning stillness in an upscale Manhattan neighborhood. Mark Sampson, a fit 45-year-old man with neatly cropped, graying hair, stepped out of the vehicle, adjusting his red Maga hat with a practiced gesture. He gazed momentarily at the luxurious building's facade, its massive glass doors with chrome trim and manicured flower beds flanking the entrance. This was his new acquisition, the culmination of months of intense bidding at an auction. His attire stood out against the sophisticated backdrop of the building: a worn blue jacket with a frayed zipper, scuffed leather boots, and plain jeans, clothes more fitting for a construction worker than the owner of a multi-million-dollar property. Yet his confident posture radiated determination. He glanced at his phone to confirm the address and headed toward the glass doors. Inside, behind a marble and glass reception desk, stood Jason, a sharply dressed 30-something black man with a perfect haircut and piercing eyes. His gray suit fit impeccably, and the silver badge on his lapel glinted under the chandelier's light. He looked up as Mark approached, his gaze immediately catching the red Maga hat. Jason's face twisted into a subtle sneer, and leaning into the intercom microphone, he spoke with exaggerated politeness. "May I help you?" Mark paused before the door, his voice calm but assured. "Good morning. I'm here to discuss some business with the building's management." Jason gave him a once-over, his eyes lingering on the hat, before his smirk widened. "Sorry, but today's a closed meeting for residents only. Try coming back later." Mark frowned slightly, raising an eyebrow, but remaining where he was. "I'm not a resident. I'm the owner." Jason froze momentarily before crossing his arms and laughing dismissively. "Right, sure you are. Look, this isn't a rally, so please leave before I have to call the police." He spoke loudly enough to draw the attention of passers-by. Two young women, shopping bags from high-end boutiques in hand, paused at the entrance. One pulled out her phone and began recording. Mark met Jason's gaze for a moment. His eyes betrayed neither anger nor humiliation, only the quiet confidence of a man accustomed to challenges. Slowly, he turned, stepping back a few paces before glancing over his shoulder. "This is just the beginning," he said softly before walking away. Inside, Jason leaned back smugly in his chair, basking in the approving glances of some residents watching from the lounge area. He had no idea his smirk would soon vanish. The next morning, Mark was back at the same glass doors. This time, he wasn't alone. Beside him stood Sarah, his attorney, a tall, sharp-featured woman with chestnut hair tied in a sleek bun. Her navy blue business suit exuded professionalism. On his other side was Peter, a rugged construction consultant with muscular arms and a leather portfolio tucked under one arm. Mark nodded, and Sarah stepped forward to the intercom. "We're here for a meeting. Kindly open the door." Jason, noticing their approach, opened the door, but quickly blocked their path, arms crossed. "Oh, it's you again," he said loudly, making sure the lounging residents overheard. "And now you've brought your legal team. Think that'll get you in?" A well-dressed woman in her 50s, seated nearby, nodded approvingly. "Good job, Jason. We don't need people like him here," she muttered. Mark remained composed, but Sarah took a step forward. "You are legally obligated to open this door," she said icily. "Failure to comply could result in the termination of your contract with the management company." Jason scoffed. "This building is for respectable people. There's no place here for someone like him." He turned to Tom, the stoic security guard stationed near the elevator. "Show them out, Tom." Tom hesitated, clearly unsure of how to proceed. "Maybe we should check with the manager first," he suggested cautiously. "The manager's aware," Jason interjected. "This guy doesn't belong here." Sarah pulled out her phone, hit record, and spoke loudly. "Jason, are you officially denying access to the building's legal owner? Is this your final position?" Mark raised a hand to stop her. "Let it be," he said calmly. "They'll all realize soon enough." Residents in the lobby began whispering among themselves, tension thick in the air. Jason, aware of the growing attention, shifted uncomfortably, but held his ground. Mark turned to his attorney and consultant. "We'll be back," he said with a faint smile. "It's just a matter of time." As they left, the reflection of Mark's resolute silhouette lingered in the glass doors. In a bustling cafe down the street, its large windows and aroma of freshly brewed coffee providing a stark contrast to the morning's tension. Mark sat across from the building's property manager, a well-dressed man in his 60s with a neatly trimmed gray beard and glasses perched on the bridge of his nose. The manager fidgeted nervously, his eyes darting between Mark and the sale document spread out on the table. "Look, Mr. Sampson, I understand your position, but you need to understand mine. The residents of this building, they're used to a certain social atmosphere. Your, presentation might be unsettling to them," he said cautiously, choosing his words with care. Mark leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table. His voice was steady but carried an undertone of steel. "This building belongs to me. I won't tolerate discrimination based on appearances or political beliefs. I'm not asking. I'm demanding. By the end of today, every resident should know I'm the new owner, and this behavior won't be tolerated." The manager nodded, removing his glasses and wiping them nervously with a cloth. "Understood. I'll arrange a meeting. But I must warn you, some residents might not take kindly to this news." Mark sat back, a faint smirk on his lips. "They'll get over it." By evening, Mark returned to the building. His steps were confident, his gaze unwavering. A crowd of residents had gathered in the lobby, their murmurs filling the air. Jason stood among them, his arms crossed and his expression less assured than before. The manager stepped forward, his voice carrying through the space. "Attention, everyone. I'm here to officially confirm that Mr. Sampson is the new owner of this property. All staff and residents are expected to respect his authority." A tense silence followed. Finally, a woman in her 50s pointed an accusatory finger at Mark. "Are you kidding? This man owns the building, but he's wearing a Maga hat." Her voice dripped with disdain, and the crowd buzzed with whispers. Mark chuckled softly, adjusting his hat. "The hat doesn't matter, ma'am, but your attitude says a lot about you." The crowd fell silent. Some people shifted uncomfortably, while others nodded in agreement. Jason's face paled as he clenched his fists, but for once, he had nothing to say. The next morning, new signs appeared in the building's lobby, bearing the words, "Equality for all is the core principle of our home." The signs were placed everywhere, serving as a reminder to both residents and staff that times were changing. Jason was summoned by the building manager. In a small office with windows overlooking the courtyard, the manager carefully reviewed some documents, avoiding direct eye contact with Jason. "Jason," he began, clearing his throat, "we appreciate your contributions to the job, but what happened yesterday cannot go without consequences. You are being temporarily suspended pending an internal investigation." Jason tried to protest, but the manager raised his hand. "This is not up for discussion." That evening, Mark organized a meeting with the residents in the large hall. He stood before the gathered crowd, his head slightly bowed. His voice was steady and confident. "I hold no grudge," he said, looking at those who had whispered behind his back the previous day. "But I want each of you to understand, this building is your home, and everyone should feel comfortable here, regardless of their views. We will implement changes to make this place better for everyone." The room was silent. Then, one of the younger residents began clapping. Gradually, others joined in, even those who had looked at Mark with disdain the day before. As Jason passed by Mark, he stopped. His face was tense, but he managed to muster the courage to speak. I didn't know. It was wrong." Mark smiled slightly and extended his hand. "People make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them.